One of the things that is fascinating to me is the work that you're doing and the pilot course that you are producing through the Dawning Point. And the first one is titled From Exile to Mattering. And I think that the reason that we're talking about, can I really follow my bliss? We're still wanting that checklist because I still want to know, is it safe? It doesn't feel safe. And when I follow my bliss, if it's going to lead me into something that is original, it only makes sense that it's going to take me out of everything that I already know. It's going to take me away from those things that make me feel safe. It's almost a self-imposed exile. Like I'm volunteering for this because I really want this. I want to know. I want to know what I have. I want it to be strengthened. I want to bring something to the world. Um, like, is there anything I can hang my hat on? Is there something I can say, even though this is painful and scary, uh, I can trust it? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes. Emphatically, yes. Gaining the strength to stand up and become rooted in your new thing, your originality, and defend it. Nicola Estes, She Who Runs with Wolves, is a fantastic book to read. And one of the things that has stuck with me in all the times that I reread that book is you have to defend your work, capital W work, like a she-wolf, bared fangs and all, but do it gently and without being aggressive, and being assertive without being aggressive. So asserting your way of standing up, and without distorting yourself, and also safeguarding those vulnerable soft spots that we've been given through our lifetimes of hurt and pain and pleasure that was put off, and pleasure that was misused against us. And the absolute faith that something is trying to emerge through us is the first thing. That each of us was born with something that we were meant and designed to do. And each of us is extremely unique in the cosmos over the entire lifetime of the cosmos. There has been and will never be another me. And so I have a deep responsibility to live into all of the good that the cosmos is trying to create through my own very tiny point of existence. But that tiny point, when we think about things from a systems perspective, that very tiny point becomes a strange attractor and can start revolutions. When you're pouring salt out of the salt container onto the table, it creates a mound, it creates a mound, it creates a mound, but that one grain of salt will hit and the whole side of the mound will cascade down and create a broader base as the mound begins to. So we don't know which grain of salt it's going to be, but I have to live in good faith that I am that grain of salt that is going to create that cascade that I can't tell where it's going to go. And I can't tell what the consequences of my actions are going to be. But I have to live in good faith that I am created not just to be original and not just to be a disruptor, which has become a common lingo. But I have been created to be a disruptor, comma, in order to allow the good that is trying to come in through the entire cosmos, through me, through my good, and that it will be good, that I will be putting good out into the world.
When you're in that self-imposed exile, you really do feel alone, right? And so
Mm,
I know that there have been times in my own exploration of what is this that's in me that wants to come forth, that wants to do something here with my life, that in moments when I hit on it, and it's just this incredible expansion of um, I don't, it's so hard to have a language, but there's something that happens that expands me so much. I'm so much bigger than anything I had ever conceived of before. It's um it's uh it's very liberating, but I don't yet know how is that helping because it feels like it's my own personal expansion. It doesn't feel like it's connected to the cosmos or connected to other people. And so
right.
it's almost like that, even knowing that other people have experienced this and how they experience it, and then for you to be able to give words to it, rises up in me a recognition. And that's all I can say is like, thank you, because it it helps me to understand in a way that um, I couldn't articulate before. So thank you for giving us those words now.
You are very welcome. And I will say that the only reason I have those words is because I was so deeply in that sense of non safety, of being in danger. And the only reason I have those words is because staying there and trying to pull out of all of that confusion, oh, the tears.
Mhm.
And, Brene Brown says, you're not growing, you're not doing something real unless you're crying and cussing. And you're angry and you're grief stricken. How do you get through that? How do you keep from saying, this is too much? I'm going to quit. I'm going to go back to my old life. This is too much, which is actually the rational thing to do. How do I stay in this rational, not irrational? It's not wrong, but it's rational because there's nothing there that tells me I'm doing the right thing. There's no list. There's no previously proven um, way of doing it correctly or correct outcome. And the pilot, it's a pilot because it's a small slice of the larger course that will dawning point. And the pilot is about permission,
Mm.
gaining permission. Where do I? And it's not that someone gives you a permission slip in the hallway, even though that can be a good descriptor. But I was the little smart kid, right, in high school.
Mhm.
And I did not have to have a permission slip to walk down the hallway because I was already me. The way that I walked, the person that all of the administration knew I was the quiet little smart kid. And so that was my permission slip. That's how I walked. They knew I was not up to something bad because I never was.
Mhm.
I had, obviously, if Joan's walking down the hall, she's got a place to go and she ought to be there. And if you walk that way, I belong here.
Mm.
And then that's your permission slip. You don't need it written by someone else and given to you. So it's fascinating that is the feeling that came up in you was the sense of, okay, I can trust that I have this good that's always already in me, that's trying to tell me where to go, because that was my second. You're listening to the voice, and then how do you live that out? You can trust that you have this taproot, which is the first part, the taproot down into the good, capital G. I spell the word God with two O's.
Mhm.
I have a taproot into this capital G OOD that's in the cosmos. And that's the second part, is I'm living out my own good, lowercase g, because I can trust, and here's the second part, that that good is out there and in here at the same time. It is trying to lift me up and carry me. I don't have to do all of the work. And what is truly fascinating is that the felt sense of what arose in you, what I heard you say, is that you could feel alone if you were only in the first part. I know my good. But if you introduce the second part, there is a good out there that's good for the whole system. I can trust that that good really is good, and that I am therefore not alone. And even though I can't see it, taste it, touch it, feel it, measure it, scientifically speaking, it is always already working in and around me. And we can get into really interesting conversations about synchronicity, about the future events that are trying to emerge up through present moment, the cosmic intelligence, which is really just the intelligence of the whole system,
Mhm.
which is very there, but not measurable. And we're in, you can get into quantum physics where the action at a distance, that the two things are not touching, but they are influencing each other nevertheless, by some kind of magic that those of us who are not physicists can't understand or really get our heads around. But it's there. Just because we can't get our heads around it does not mean it's not there.
Mhm.
We are good. We can listen to our quiet voice, learn how to do that, and find out what that good is that's emerging from within us, even if we can't elevator speech what it is in a little blithe comment. But we can also know that it is much more powerful than we will ever be as our own little individual points of light. And that we are not a point of light, we are pinpricks in the darkness that are allowing that brighter light to shine through. And what's important is that we open that, we dilate that pinprick and protect it and become stronger and stronger in living out that pinprick. But behind that pinprick, the light that's coming through is a very bright light source that is very, very powerful. I can simply live in good faith to the reason why we are here and not here. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
That the reason why we are here, you and I, talking to each other today, is that there is a coming togetherness of the cosmos always already. So the cosmos has its own good that's always already trying to come up through. And I'm constantly in mindful dialogue to the emergence of that safeguardedness and novelty. I'm always constantly asking questions. Is this good now? What can I do now?
Mm.
What can I open myself up to now? How can I maintain strength, but also maintain intense fluidity inside this situation? And part of the pilot is I like to teach courses so that they are very experiential. And part of the course is that the student will explore their meander.
Mhm.
They will explore their meanwhile. While you're trying to figure out the purpose of your life, what are you doing meanwhile? What is that? What are those things that you are doing that you're saying, oh, I'm wasting time. I need to be doing something practical. I'm not getting my to-do list done. But I look back over my day and I was doing this meanwhile. Meanwhile, while I'm waiting for my purpose to magically appear in a bright burning bush, meanwhile, I was, and this is Joan speaking, I was reading book after book after book on this topic and that topic, following my meander through all of this philosophical and self-help and woo-woo and spiritual and, following that with I couldn't describe to somebody what my plan was. But meanwhile, while I'm waiting for my purpose to appear, I can look at that and say, oh, what's a unifying force in that? And it's not just me, because I didn't have a plan. I was just following my interest. I was following my big personal topic, my personal research topic is eros. I was following my eros. What made me feel good? It made me feel good to sit and drink my coffee in the morning and read that next philosophy book. And then I realized, oh, it's been 3 hours. Oh, it's been 4 hours. I've got this to-do list I've got to do, and I'm not doing it, and I don't have a purpose, and I can't tell anybody what my job is, and I'm not making any money. I'm not making any money. I'm not making any money. Oh, but now I have a library of books that are black on the edges with notes and margin notes and underlines that I can go back to now. And if I had not done that meanwhile, I would not now have my purpose. But if you had told me my purpose back then, I would have said you were crazy. There's no way. So allowing that purpose to emerge from within your meanwhile, because you're living in good faith to the idea that you have permission. And you have permission because you're walking down the hallway as if you do, not because anybody's giving you a little slip of paper. How do I live once I have permission? This is the course itself. How do I follow the peace, the felt sense of peacefulness that comes with doing the right thing? So I call it the peace eros. And how do I gain the strength and power that I have from a whole way of living called appreciation? And I'm not talking about those gratitude lists, even though those are important. I'm talking about true appreciation. How can I be appreciated? And how can I appreciate? And then finally, out the other end of peace is play. How can this feel like play? How can I go through I'm going to start crying myself. How can I go through my work day without it being painful work? It feels like play. You mean I'm getting paid to do this? That's the feeling. That's your purpose. When you have achieved that feeling on a day-to-day basis, this feels like play. And I call that play eros. That right there is telling you your purpose. You don't have to come up with the purpose. Just experience the play.